When silence becomes a weapon, Lieutenant Sarah Kane pressed her face against the cold viewport of her reconnaissance ship, watching the stars shift as she completed her patrol route along the outer rim. 3 years of deep space missions had taught her to find beauty in the endless darkness, but tonight something felt different. Her instruments picked up unusual energy readings from the nearby asteroid field. Kane was known throughout Earth's Space Command for her ability to remain calm under pressure. At 28, she had completed more solo reconnaissance missions than any other pilot in the fleet. Her superiors trusted her judgment, and her fellow pilots respected her skill. What they didn't know was that Sarah Kane carried secrets that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The energy readings grew stronger as she approached the asteroid field. Her ship's scanners revealed something that made her heart race. Hidden among the space rocks was a massive Zephyrian battlecruiser, its sleek black hull almost invisible against the dark void. The Zephyrians were supposed to be 3 sectors away, negotiating a peace treaty with the Galactic Council. Their presence here, so close to Earth's territory, meant only one thing: they were planning something. Kane quickly activated her ship's recording systems and began documenting the Zephyrian vessel. She captured detailed scans of its weapon systems, shield configurations, and crew complement. This intelligence would be invaluable to Earth's defense forces. But as she worked, she failed to notice the subtle shimmer in space behind her. The attack came without warning. Zephyrian fighters, using advanced cloaking technology, surrounded her ship in seconds. Kane's training kicked in immediately. She threw her ship into a series of evasive maneuvers, diving between asteroids and using their gravity wells to confuse her pursuers' targeting systems. For several minutes, it seemed she might escape. But the Zephyrians had planned this trap carefully. As Kane's ship cleared the asteroid field, she found herself facing the massive guns of the battlecruiser. Energy beams lanced out, disabling her engines and weapons in precise strikes that left her life support intact. They wanted her alive. The tractor beam pulled her ship into the cruiser's hangar bay. Kane used the final moments of freedom to send a coded transmission toward Earth. The message was brief but contained everything: the Zephyrian battle plans she had discovered, her current location, and a single word that would change everything: Echo. Zephyrian soldiers dragged Kane from her ship. Their insectoid faces showed no emotion as they bound her hands with energy restraints. The hangar bay was filled with activity as crews prepared other ships for what was clearly a major operation. Kane counted at least 50 fighters and several assault transports. Whatever the Zephyrians were planning, it was big. Commander Vextar waited for her in the detention level. The Zephyrian was taller than most of his species, with scarred chitin plates that spoke of many battles. His 4 eyes studied Kane with cold intelligence as she was forced into the interrogation chamber. "Lieutenant Sarah Kane of Earth's Space Command," Vextar said, his translator giving his voice a mechanical quality. "You have caused us considerable inconvenience." Kane said nothing. She had been trained for this moment, though she'd hoped it would never come. The interrogation chamber was designed to break human minds. The temperature was set just below comfortable, the lighting flickered at frequencies that caused headaches, and a low subsonic hum created a sense of constant unease. "We know you transmitted data before your capture," Vextar continued. "We'd also know that transmission contained classified information about our operations. What we need to know is what else you discovered and who you sent it to." Still, Kane remained silent. She focused on her breathing, using techniques learned during her training to maintain her mental barriers. But Vextar was patient. He had broken many prisoners over the years, and he knew that everyone had a breaking point. The torture began subtly: neural disruptors that caused intense pain without leaving physical damage, memory scanners that attempted to rip information directly from her mind, chemical agents that were supposed to make her compliant and talkative. But Kane's training had prepared her for all of this. More importantly, she carried something the Zephyrians didn't know about: a neural implant that protected her deepest secrets. Hours passed, then days. Kane endured pain that would have killed most people, but she revealed nothing important. She gave them bits of outdated tactical information and false intelligence, anything to make them think they were making progress while protecting Earth's real secrets. Vextar grew frustrated. The attack on Earth was scheduled to begin soon, and he needed the humans' information to ensure its success. But Kane proved tougher than any prisoner he had interrogated before. There was something different about her, something that his scanners couldn't identify. On the third day of her captivity, something extraordinary happened. Kane was alone in her cell, recovering from another brutal interrogation session, when the lights suddenly went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. But in those few seconds of darkness, Kane felt a presence near her. When the lights returned, there was a small device hidden in her food tray. It looked like a standard nutrition tablet, but Kane recognized it immediately. It was a message capsule, one that only someone with the highest security clearance would possess. The message inside was simple. Echo confirms. Extraction in progress. Maintain position. Kane's heart raced. The Echo program was Earth's most classified operation, something so secret that most of the government didn't know it existed. If Echo operatives were involved, it meant that her capture had triggered protocols that went far beyond a simple rescue mission. Over the next 2 days, strange things began happening throughout the Zephyrian ship. Systems failed mysteriously, guards disappeared from their posts, and security feeds showed impossible images. Corridors that should have been empty suddenly contained shadowy figures that vanished when looked at directly. Vextar called in his best security specialist, but they could find no evidence of sabotage or infiltration. The ship's sensors showed no unauthorized life forms, and all access points remained sealed. Yet the incidents continued to escalate. Entire sections of the ship experienced power failures, and several officers reported seeing figures in their peripheral vision that weren't there when they turned to look. The Zephyrian crew began to whisper about ghosts and spirits. Their culture had legends of warriors who could walk between worlds, invisible and unstoppable. But Vextar was a rational being who didn't believe in superstition. He increased security around Kane's cell and ordered constant surveillance. On the 6th night, Kane disappeared. The security recording showed her lying on her cell bunk one moment, then static filled the screen for exactly 3 seconds. When the image cleared, she was gone. The cell door remained locked. The walls showed no signs of damage, and the guards at both ends of the corridor swore that no one had passed by them. Vextar was furious. He ordered a complete search of the ship, section by section, but Kane was nowhere to be found. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. The only clue was a message found carved into the metal wall of her cell, a single word in perfect Zephyrian script. Echo. Meanwhile, millions of miles away, Earth's Space Command received Kane's original transmission. The intelligence about Zephyrian battle plans was invaluable, but it was the single word Echo that caused the most reaction. Admiral Harrison, the head of Space Command, immediately activated protocols that had been dormant for years. The Echo program had been conceived during Earth's first contact with hostile alien species. Recognizing that humanity was outnumbered and outgunned, Earth's leaders had authorized the creation of a special forces unit unlike anything that had ever existed. Echo operatives were selected from the best of the best, then subjected to experimental procedures that enhanced their natural abilities far beyond normal human limits. But the most important aspect of the Echo program was its secrecy. Echo operatives had no official records, no families that could be traced, and no connections to normal military command structures. As far as the galaxy was concerned, they didn't exist. They were ghosts, moving through alien societies and gathering intelligence while preparing for the day when Earth might need them. Marcus Reed had been an Echo operative for 12 years. Officially, he didn't exist. There were no records of his birth, no school transcripts, no military service files. Even his DNA had been altered to prevent identification. To the rest of the galaxy, he was nobody, but to Earth's enemies, he was about to become their worst nightmare. Reed received his mission briefing in a location that didn't exist on any map. The room had no windows, no identifying features, and no permanent occupants. He studied Kane's file, memorized the intelligence she had gathered, and reviewed the layout of Zephyrian space. This isn't just a rescue mission, his handler told him. Kane's capture has revealed something important. The Zephyrians are planning a major offensive against Earth. We need to know their full battle plan, and we need to send a message that attacking our people has consequences. Reed nodded. He had completed dozens of similar missions over the years, but something about this one felt different. Kane's transmission had included details about Zephyrian forces that suggested their upcoming attack would be unlike anything Earth had faced before. As Reed prepared for his mission, he thought about Lieutenant Sarah Kane. He had studied her file extensively and was impressed by her record. She was exactly the kind of person who deserved to come home, but Reed knew that sometimes bringing someone home required making other people disappear. The transport ship that carried Reed towards Zephyrian space was as invisible as he was. Using technology that bent light around its hull, the ship could pass through enemy territory without being detected. Reed spent the journey reviewing his equipment and planning his approach. He thought about Kane, alone and probably being tortured by the Zephyrians. She had held out for days without breaking, protecting Earth's secrets despite unimaginable pain. That kind of courage deserved to be rewarded. But Reed also knew that this mission was about more than one person. The Zephyrians needed to learn that attacking Earth came with a price. As the transport approached the Zephyrian territory, Reed made his final preparations. He checked his weapons, tested his stealth systems, and reviewed his mission parameters one more time. In a few hours, he would be inside enemy space, hunting for a woman who had vanished without a trace. The Zephyrians thought they had captured just another Earth pilot. They had no idea that their actions had awakened something that had been waiting in the shadows for years. Reed smiled as he thought about what was coming. The galaxy was about to learn that some ghosts were very real and very dangerous. Kane's disappearance had left Vextar with more questions than answers. But soon, he would have bigger problems to worry about. The Echo had been activated, and Marcus Reed was coming. The hunter becomes the hunted. Marcus Reed drifted through the void between stars, his ship's stealth systems making him invisible to Zephyrian sensors. 3 days had passed since he entered enemy territory, and already the alien networks were buzzing with reports of impossible incidents. Outposts had gone dark, patrol ships had vanished, and security footage showed glimpses of figures that shouldn't exist. Reed's ship was a masterpiece of human engineering that officially didn't exist. The Phantom was smaller than most fighters but packed with technology that would have amazed even Earth's top scientists. Its hull could bend light around itself, its engines produced no detectable emissions, and its weapons could fire without revealing the ship's position. It was the perfect tool for a ghost. The first Zephyrian outpost had been almost too easy. Reed had approached during a shift change, when the guards were distracted and the sensors were cycling through their maintenance routines. He materialized from nothing in the command center, downloaded their databases, and left behind only unconscious guards and a single message burned into their main computer. She is under Earth's protection. The second outpost had been more challenging. The Zephyrians had increased their alert status after the first incident, but Reed had anticipated this. He infiltrated their communication networks and fed false sensor readings to their security systems. While they searched for threats in empty space, he walked through their corridors like a shadow, gathering intelligence about Kane's location. By the third outpost, panic was spreading through the Zephyrian fleet. Their officers whispered about the Phantom Warrior who could appear and disappear at will. Some claimed he was a new type of human soldier, enhanced beyond normal capabilities. Others believed he was something else entirely, a ghost sent to punish those who had wronged Earth. Reed listened to their communications from the safety of his cloaked ship and smiled grimly. Fear was a weapon more powerful than any gun, and the Zephyrians were learning to fear the dark. But he wasn't just terrorizing them for entertainment. Each attack gave him more information about their military structure, their defenses, and most importantly, where they were holding Sarah Kane. The intelligence he gathered painted a disturbing picture. The Zephyrians weren't just planning to attack Earth. They were preparing to enslave humanity. Their files contained detailed studies of human psychology, biology, and social structures. They had been watching Earth for years, learning how to break human resistance and turn people into obedient workers. Kane's capture hadn't been an accident. She had been targeted specifically because of her knowledge of Earth's defense systems. The Zephyrians needed that information to ensure their invasion would succeed quickly, before other galactic powers could intervene. But Kane had held out longer than they expected, and now their timeline was in jeopardy. Reed's fourth target was a communication relay station that served as a hub for Zephyrian military networks. He approached it differently this time, using his ship's advanced sensors to map every detail of the station's defenses. The Zephyrians had learned from their previous encounters and installed new security measures designed to detect stealth technology. But Reed had advantages they couldn't imagine. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to move faster than their sensors could track. His modified nervous system could process information at superhuman speeds. Most importantly, his training had taught him to think like a predator, always staying one step ahead of his prey. The attack on the relay station was swift and precise. Reed disabled their primary sensors with electromagnetic pulses, then used their own security systems against them. He convinced their computers that he was authorized personnel, walked through their defenses, and accessed their most secure databases. What he found there made his blood run cold. The Zephyrians had Kane, but she wasn't being held on a simple prison ship. They had taken her to Kethmora, a fortress moon that served as their most secure detention facility. The moon was surrounded by automated defense platforms, patrolled by elite guard units, and protected by energy shields that could withstand planetary bombardment. It was designed to be impregnable, but Reed also discovered something else in their files. Kane wasn't just being tortured for information, she was being used as a test subject. The Zephyrians were experimenting on her, trying to understand how humans could be modified to serve their purposes. The medical reports made Reed's enhanced heart rate spike with anger. As Reed prepared to leave the relay station, he made a decision that would change everything. Instead of simply destroying their databases, he planted a virus in their communication networks. The virus would spread slowly, infecting every Zephyrian system it touched. When activated, it would reveal the true scope of Earth's capabilities to the galaxy. The journey to Kethmora took 2 days, during which Reed's reputation continued to grow. Zephyrian patrol ships reported encounters with impossible enemies. Some claimed their ships had been boarded by invisible attackers. Others insisted they had been followed by vessels that appear on sensors but couldn't be seen visually. The truth was that Reed wasn't alone. Other Echo operatives had been activated across Zephyrian space, each working independently but toward the same goal. They were the galaxy's most effective ghosts, and they were systematically dismantling Zephyrian confidence from within. Kethmora loomed before Reed like a metallic cancer growing on the surface of a dying moon. The fortress was massive, its walls reaching toward the star-filled sky like accusing fingers. Automated weapon systems tracked across the surrounding space, searching for threats that might never come. But Reed was already inside their perimeter, his ship's stealth systems making him as invisible as his reputation suggested. The infiltration of Kethmora required all of Reed's skills. The fortress used multiple layers of security, each designed to stop different types of threats. Energy barriers blocked conventional ships, motion sensors detected movement, and thermal scanners looked for heat signatures. But Reed had spent years learning to be nothing, and nothing could pass through any defense. He abandoned his ship in a hidden crater and approached the fortress on foot. His suit's adaptive camouflage made him blend into the lunar landscape, while his modified physiology allowed him to survive in the thin atmosphere. Each step was calculated, each movement planned to avoid the overlapping sensor networks that protected the facility. The outer defenses were designed to stop armies, not individuals. Reed slipped between sensor sweeps like a shadow, using his enhanced reflexes to time his movements perfectly. When a patrol drone passed overhead, he became a rock. When motion sensors swept his area, he was already somewhere else. The inner fortress was more challenging. Zephyrian guards patrolled the corridors in pairs, their 4 eyes constantly scanning for threats. But Reed had studied their behavior patterns during his previous infiltrations. He knew their shift schedules, their communication protocols, and their weaknesses. Moving through the fortress required patience. Reed spent hours in ventilation shafts, waiting for the perfect moment to advance. He used his enhanced hearing to track guard movements, his modified vision to see in near-total darkness, and his altered metabolism to remain motionless for extended periods without fatigue. The prisoner levels were located deep within the fortress, protected by additional security measures that would have stopped conventional rescue attempts. Energy barriers required specific codes to pass through. Biometric scanners checked genetic markers. Automated weapon systems responded to unauthorized movement with lethal force. But Reed carried equipment that the Zephyrians had never encountered. His tools could mimic their genetic signatures, hack their security systems, and neutralize their weapons without triggering alarms. He moved through their defenses like water through a sieve, leaving no trace of his passage. He found Kane in a cell that was designed to break human minds. The walls shifted color constantly, creating patterns that induced disorientation. The temperature fluctuated between extremes, preventing comfortable sleep. Subsonic frequencies caused headaches and anxiety. But Kane sat in the center of the chaos, her eyes closed in meditation, her breathing steady and controlled. Reed studied her through the observation window and felt a mixture of admiration and rage. Kane had been tortured for over a week, subjected to physical and psychological abuse that would have destroyed most people. But she remained unbroken, her spirit intact despite everything the Zephyrians had done to her. The cell's security systems were formidable, but Reed had come prepared. He attached a small device to the control panel and waited as it worked through the electronic locks. The process took several minutes, during which Reed remained perfectly still, listening for approaching guards. When the door finally opened, Kane's eyes snapped to attention. She saw Reed's shadowy form in the doorway and immediately understood what was happening. Despite her condition, she rose to her feet with the fluid grace of a trained soldier. "Echo," she whispered. Reed nodded and moved into the cell. Up close, he could see the extent of her injuries. The Zephyrians had been systematic in their torture, causing maximum pain while avoiding permanent damage. But Kane's eyes remained clear and focused, her mind still sharp despite her ordeal. "Can you move?" Reed asked, his voice barely audible. "I can do whatever is necessary," Kane replied. Reed smiled at her response. It was exactly what he had expected from someone with her record. He handed her a small device that would enhance her natural abilities temporarily, giving her the strength and speed she would need for their escape. But as they prepared to leave the cell, Reed made a discovery that changed everything. Hidden in Kane's neural implant was a data package that she had been protecting with her life. The information it contained wasn't just Earth's defense codes. It was a complete record of the Echo program's operations throughout the galaxy. Kane had been more than just a reconnaissance pilot. She had been an Echo coordinator, responsible for managing the program's activities in her sector. Her capture hadn't been random. The Zephyrians had specifically targeted her because they suspected Earth had operatives embedded in alien societies. "How many others know about this?" Reed asked, indicating the implant. "Only the ones who need to," Kane replied. "But if the Zephyrians extract this information, they'll be able to identify every Echo operative in the galaxy." Reed understood the implications immediately. The Echo program's effectiveness depended on its secrecy. If their identities were revealed, dozens of operatives would be exposed, and Earth's intelligence network would be destroyed. The escape from Kethmora became something more than a rescue mission. Reed and Kane worked together to plant charges throughout the fortress's computer systems. When detonated, the explosions would destroy not only the facility but also any copies of the intelligence the Zephyrians had gathered. Their journey through the fortress was a deadly dance of stealth and precision. Reed's enhanced abilities allowed him to neutralize guards silently, while Kane's knowledge of Zephyrian systems helped them avoid security measures. Together, they moved through the facility like ghosts, leaving destruction in their wake. The final confrontation came in the fortress's command center. Commander Vextar was waiting for them, surrounded by his elite guards and backed by automated weapon systems. He had realized that Kane's escape was part of a larger operation and had prepared accordingly. "The Phantom Warrior reveals himself at last," Vextar said, his 4 eyes studying Reed with cold intelligence. "You are not what our intelligence suggested. You are something else entirely." Reed said nothing. He had learned long ago that words were often unnecessary. Instead, he moved with inhuman speed, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge energy blasts that should have been impossible to avoid. The battle was brief but intense, with Reed and Kane working together to overcome overwhelming odds. When it was over, Vextar lay dying on the command center floor. With his last breath, he whispered a warning that chilled Reed to the bone. "You think you have won, but this is only the beginning. We have learned your secrets, Phantom. We know what you really are." As Reed and Kane escaped from the collapsing fortress, they both understood that something fundamental had changed. The galaxy now knew that Earth possessed capabilities far beyond what anyone had imagined. The age of hiding in the shadows was over, and humanity would have to face the consequences of its actions. But they also knew something else. The Echo program had been activated across multiple sectors, and other operatives were carrying out similar missions throughout Zephyrian space. The aliens had awakened something they didn't understand, and they were about to learn why Earth had remained hidden for so long. The hunt was just beginning, and humanity's ghosts were ready to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. When Earth's true power awakens, the escape pod drifted through space like a discarded piece of debris, its occupants hidden from Zephyrian sensors by advanced stealth technology. Inside, Sarah Kane worked frantically at a portable communication array while Marcus Reed monitored their surroundings for pursuit. The destruction of Keth Mora had sent shockwaves through Zephyrian space, but their mission was far from over. The virus is spreading faster than expected, Kane reported, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Zephyrian communication networks are experiencing cascading failures across 17 sectors. Reed nodded as he watched distant explosions bloom like deadly flowers against the star field. Each flash of light represented another Zephyrian installation falling to coordinated echo strikes. The plan was working perfectly, but he knew the real test was yet to come. Kane's rescue had triggered something unprecedented in galactic history. For decades, Earth had placed echo operatives throughout alien civilizations, embedding them so deeply that even they sometimes forgot their true origins. They had become merchants, translators, technicians, and advisors, all while gathering intelligence and preparing for the day when humanity might need them. That day had arrived. Across Zephyrian space, sleeper agents were awakening. A maintenance worker on a military shipyard revealed himself to be a demolitions expert who had been waiting 20 years for his activation code. A trusted advisor to a Zephyrian admiral suddenly began feeding false intelligence to the enemy fleet. A humble translator working in their intelligence division started systematically destroying their most sensitive databases. The Zephyrians had built their empire on the assumption that other species were predictable and limited. They understood conventional warfare, traditional espionage, and straightforward military tactics. But they had never encountered anything like the Echo program, and their rigid thinking made them vulnerable to humanity's unconventional approach. Reed's communicator crackled to life with reports from other operatives. Agent Wolf had successfully infiltrated the Zephyrian Naval Academy and was turning their own students against them. Agent Raven had taken control of a major supply depot and was redirecting resources to rebel forces. Agent Fox had disappeared into the criminal underworld and was organizing resistance movements on occupied worlds. "How many of us are there?" Kane asked as she listened to the steady stream of reports. "Enough," Reed replied simply. The true number of Echo operatives was classified at levels so high that even Kane didn't have access to it. But based on the scope of their current operations, she could see that humanity had been planning for this moment far longer than anyone had imagined. The communication array suddenly came alive with an urgent transmission from Earth. Admiral Harrison's voice crackled through the static, his words carrying the weight of momentous decisions. "Echo Command, this is Terra Prime. Phase 2 is authorized. Repeat, Phase 2 is authorized. All operatives, you are cleared for full disclosure protocols." Kane felt her blood run cold. Phase 2 meant revealing the Echo program's existence to the galaxy at large. It meant abandoning the shadows and showing the universe exactly what humanity was capable of. There would be no going back after this point. Reed was already working at his own communication panel, sending coded signals to sleeper cells throughout known space. The responses came back quickly, each one confirming what Kane had begun to suspect. Echo operatives weren't just embedded in Zephyrian society, they were everywhere. The Altarian Trade Consortium, which controlled commerce across 3 sectors, had been influenced by human agents for 15 years. The Crystalline Collective, masters of advanced technology, had unknowingly shared their secrets with Echo scientists. Even the proud warrior culture of the Draconian Empire had been penetrated by human operatives who had earned their respect through combat. "My God," Kane whispered as the full scope of the operation became clear. "We haven't just been hiding from the galaxy. We've been living inside it." The revelation changed everything. Earth wasn't a primitive world protected by ancient treaties. It was the spider at the center of a web that spanned thousands of star systems. Humanity had been patient, careful, and methodical in building relationships with alien civilizations while secretly learning everything about their capabilities and weaknesses. The first public revelation came from the Altarian capital, where a respected trade mediator named David Shen suddenly appeared on galactic news networks. For 20 years, he had been known as an expert in interspecies commerce, helping to negotiate deals between different alien civilizations. Now he stood before the cameras and calmly announced that he was a human agent. "My name is David Chen, and I am a citizen of Earth," he said, his words broadcast to billions of beings across the galaxy. "For 2 decades, I have served as an observer and protector of peaceful trade relationships. But recent events have forced us to reveal ourselves." The reaction was immediate and explosive. Governments that had trusted Chen with their most sensitive negotiations realized they had been sharing their secrets with an alien spy. Trade agreements that had seemed beneficial suddenly appeared to favor human interests. The Altarian Consortium's leadership went into emergency session, trying to determine how much of their civilization had been compromised. But Chen wasn't finished. He revealed that Earth had been secretly mediating conflicts throughout the galaxy, preventing wars that would have cost millions of lives. He showed evidence of Zephyrian plans to instigate conflicts between other species, using the chaos to expand their own territory. He proved that humanity had been acting as a stabilizing force, working behind the scenes to maintain galactic peace. Similar revelations followed across the galaxy. Echo operatives emerged from their cover identities, each one revealing years or decades of secret service. They had prevented assassinations, stopped terrorist attacks, and quietly resolved disputes that could have led to interstellar wars. The galaxy began to realize that many of the peaceful years they had enjoyed were due to human intervention. The Zephyrians responded with fury and fear. Supreme Commander Thexkar, Vextar's superior, issued emergency orders for the immediate capture of all humans in Zephyrian space. But it was too late. The Echo operatives had already vanished back into the shadows, taking their accumulated intelligence with them. On the fortress world of Zeph Prime, the heart of the Zephyrian Empire, chaos erupted as their most trusted advisors and technical specialists revealed themselves to be human agents. Critical systems failed as sleeper programs activated, military networks collapsed under coordinated cyber attacks, and government officials found themselves unable to trust anyone around them. Admiral Harrison's next transmission to the Echo network carried new orders that would reshape the balance of galactic power. Operation Sunlight was authorized, the complete exposure of Zephyrian war crimes and atrocities to the galactic community. Echo operatives who had been gathering evidence for years suddenly began broadcasting their findings to every news network in known space. The evidence was overwhelming. The Zephyrians had been conducting illegal biological experiments on captured prisoners from dozens of species. They had been using slave labor to build their military infrastructure. They had been planning genocidal attacks against civilizations that refused to submit to their rule. Most shocking of all, they had been secretly supporting terrorist groups and pirates throughout the galaxy, profiting from the chaos they created. Kane found herself at the center of the information war as her own recordings of Zephyrian interrogation techniques were broadcast across the galaxy. Her torture at their hands became a symbol of their cruelty, while her resistance inspired other species to stand up against Zephyrian oppression. But the true masterstroke came from an unexpected source. Agent Phoenix, who had been embedded in the Zephyrian government for over 30 years, had worked her way up to become one of Supreme Commander Thexkar's most trusted advisors. Now she revealed not only her true identity, but also the complete Zephyrian battle plans for their upcoming invasion of Earth. The galaxy watched in horror as Phoenix displayed detailed maps of Zephyrian forces, their intended targets, and their methods for breaking human resistance. The plans included concentration camps for human survivors, breeding programs to create more compliant slaves, and the systematic destruction of Earth's cultural heritage. It became clear that the Zephyrians weren't just planning conquest, they were planning extinction. The revelation galvanized opposition throughout the galaxy. Species that had remained neutral in previous conflicts suddenly began offering support to Earth. The Crystalline Collective, whose technology had been shared with Echo operatives, announced a formal alliance with humanity. The Draconian Empire, impressed by human tactical thinking, declared war on the Zephyrian Empire and began mobilizing their fleets. Reed and Kane watched from their hidden position as the galaxy transformed around them. Years of careful preparation were paying off as humanity's true capabilities became apparent, but they also knew that the hardest part was still to come. Supreme Commander Thexkar, desperate to salvage his empire's position, ordered the immediate execution of all human prisoners and the acceleration of attack plans against Earth. But Echo operatives had anticipated this response. As Zephyrian forces moved toward human space, they found their supply lines cut, their communication networks compromised, and their own ships turning against them. The final battle came not as a massive fleet engagement, but as a series of surgical strikes that demonstrated humanity's evolved understanding of warfare. Echo operatives aboard Zephyrian ships activated hidden programs that seized control of weapon systems. Sleeper agents in key positions opened defensive barriers at critical moments. Most importantly, human negotiators who had spent decades building relationships with other species now called in favors that had been accumulating for years. The Zephyrian Empire collapsed not from external pressure, but from internal dissolution. Their subject species, inspired by human examples of resistance and armed with intelligence provided by Echo operatives, began declaring independence. Their military forces, riddled with double agents and compromised by cyber warfare, proved incapable of maintaining order. In the aftermath, as the galaxy struggled to understand what had happened, Kane and Reed found themselves aboard an Earth vessel heading home. The secret was out. Humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows. But rather than the chaos many had predicted, the revelation brought stability to the galaxy. What happens now? Kane asked as Earth grew larger in the viewport ahead of them. Reed considered the question carefully. The Echo program had served its purpose, but its exposure meant that humanity would have to find new ways to influence galactic affairs. The age of secret operations was ending, but the age of open diplomacy was beginning. Now we do what humans have always done, he replied. We adapt. Earth's emergence as a galactic power changed everything. The careful relationships that Echo operatives had built over decades became the foundation for a new kind of interstellar cooperation. Humanity's reputation for keeping promises and protecting the innocent made them natural mediators in conflicts between other species. The Zephyrian Empire was dismantled and its territories redistributed to the species they had oppressed. War crimes tribunals, led by human prosecutors who had gathered evidence for years, brought justice to those who had committed atrocities. Most importantly, new institutions were created to prevent future conflicts, with Earth serving as a neutral ground for negotiations. Kane returned to active duty, but now as Earth's first official ambassador to the galactic community. Her experience as a prisoner of war gave her unique insights into the psychology of oppression and resistance, making her an effective advocate for justice and peace. Reed officially remained non-existent, his record still classified at the highest levels. But those who knew him understood that he continued to serve in the shadows, now as part of a reformed intelligence service that focused on preventing conflicts rather than winning them. Years later, as peace settled over the galaxy, historians would debate the true impact of the Echo program. Some called it the greatest intelligence operation in galactic history, while others criticized its deceptive methods. But most agreed on one thing. Humanity's patient approach to galactic affairs had prevented a war that could have destroyed billions of lives. The galaxy had learned that Earth's greatest weapon wasn't technology or military might, but the human capacity for long-term thinking and genuine commitment to justice. In a universe where most species thought in terms of immediate advantage, humanity had planned for generations, building a foundation for lasting peace. And in the quiet corners of space, where new conflicts sometimes threatened to emerge, observers occasionally reported glimpses of figures who shouldn't exist. Ghosts who worked to maintain the peace that so many had died to achieve. The Echo program might have been revealed, but its spirit lived on in those who understood that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to protect. The silent echo of humanity's hidden years continued to resonate throughout the galaxy. a reminder that sometimes the greatest victories were won not on battlefields, but in the patient work of building a better future for all.